I'm going to pick up back with Xenophon Cyropedia, Book 3. I'm attempting to read all of Section 2 right now, so I'm going to plan on doing English and then Greek back and forth. I think that's going to be the easiest for me to follow along, and if somebody's going to try to follow along with me reading the Greek, it should be easier to have me read it in English and then Greek, opposed to just the Greek, because I know too many people freak out if it's just Greek. So I'm going to read English and Greek side by side. That's the goal. And here we go. Section 2. The scenery is Cyrus. He just basically captured the king of Armenia, who had tried to revolt. And here is where we start. Section 2, verse 1. On the morrow, Cyrus took with him Tigranes, the best of the Median horsemen, and as many of his own friends as he thought proper, and rode around to inspect the country, with a few to find a place in which to build a fort. And when he had come to a certain eminence, he asked Tigranes which were the mountains from which the Chaldeans were accustomed to descend to make forays into the country. And Tigranes pointed them out. Ti the Istorea ana lavon okiros ton Tigranin, ke ton midon ipeon tus kratistus, ke ton of tu philon aposus keros edokiina. Perialavnon tin horon, kat theato scapone, pu tichisia frurion, ke ep acron teothon epirota ton tigranin, pia ie ton oreon apothen I calvei cataltheondes lizonde. O the Tigranes Avikni. And again he asked, and are these mountains now occupied? O the Pauline Irato, Nin the Taftata Ori Erimastin? No, by Zeus, he said, ma the Effie. But they always have scouts up there who signal to the rest whatever they see. Al aiskopisin ekinon, I si menusin tisalis otiano rosin. Then, said he, what do they do when they receive the signals? Tiun efi piusin, epin es thonde. They run out to the heights to help, he said, each as best he can. Voithusin efi, epita akra, os on ekastos dinata. Verse 2. Such was the account to which Cyrus listened, and as he looked, he observed that a large portion of the Armenian country was deserted and uncultivated as a result of the war. And then they went back to camp, and after they had dined, they went to rest. Taftamen thee, O Kiros, ikikoi. Scopon the kat enoi, Pauline tin horas tis Armenies, erimon ke argon usan theaton polemon, ke tota men apilthon epitos stratopathon, ke the penisandes ekimithisan. Section 3, or verse 3. On the day following, Tigranes presented himself with his baggage all ready for the start. And under his command were assembled about 4,000 horsemen and about 10,000 bowmen, as many peltists besides. Ti theisterea of tos te o Tigranes, parin, sinus gevasmenos ke pis, istus tetrakiskilius, sina legundo of to, ke tok sote istus mirius, ke peltiste alid tosuti. While they had been coming together, Cyrus had been sacrificing, And while his sacrifice gave favorable omens, he called a meeting of the officers of the Persians and of the Medes. O the Kyros en o sinalegondo atheato, epi the kala ta yara'in of to, sinakalasa tus teton person, e gemonas, ke tus ton midon. Section 4, or verse 4. And when they were come together, he spoke as follows. Epithel mu isan alexa tiada. My friends, these mountains which we see belong to Chaldea. Andras fili esti men ta ori tafta a Roman Chaldeon. But on the other hand, if we should seize them and have a fort of our own built upon the summit, both parties, the Armenians, and the Chaldeans, would have to behave with discretion toward us. Either tavte katalavimen ke aparku genito imeteron frurion sophronin ananki an e prosimas amphoteris tis te armeniis ke tis Chaldeis. Now the sacrifices give us favorable omens, but for the execution of our plan, nothing would be so strong an ally to human zeal as dispatch. For if we get up there before the enemy have time to come together, we may gain possession of the heights altogether without a battle, or we may at least find enemies few in number and without strength. Tamen un yura kalaimin. Anthropini the prothemia isto prathina tafta uden uto mega simakon on genito ostakos. Ingar phasamen printus polemius silangina anavandas e pandapasin amachi lavimen on to akron ligis te ke astanesi Chrysemethon polemies. Verse 5. Of the tasks before us, therefore, none is easier or less fraught with danger, said he, than now bravely to endure the strain of haste. Therefore to arms, and ton un ponon udis raon, ud akin the noteros efi, esti tu nin carterisa spevdondas. Ita un apitaopla, ke you Medes march on our left. Emis menomidi and aristara imon parevfista. And you, Armenians, half keep to the right and half on in front. Emis the Armenii, Emen emisis en lexia, ida emisis embros then, emon igista. While your cavalry men shall follow behind to encourage and push us upward. Emis the o epis, opis the nepista, para calavomani, ke othundas ano imas. And if anyone is inclined to show weakness, do not allow it. In the tis malakinita mi epitrepita. Verse 6. With this command, Cyrus brought his companies to ploy into columns and took his place at their head. Tafta ipon okiros, igita ortheus, pi samenos tu slocus. And when the Chaldeans realized that the movement was directed toward the heights, they immediately gave a signal to the people, called to one another to assemble, and began to come together. Either Chaldei, os agnosan tin ormin anausan, evthes as simenon, tetis efton, ke sinavoon alilus, ke sin e threezondo. And Cyrus gave command, fellow Persians, they're signaling us to hasten. O the Kyros Paragia. O the Kyros Paragia, Andres Perse, Imin Simenosin Spevdin. For if we get up there first, the enemy's efforts will be of no avail. Ingarfthasomen ano genomini, Uzen ta ton polemion thinisita. Verse 7. Now the Chaldeans carried each a wicker shield and 2 spears, and they were said to be the most warlike of the peoples in that region. Ikon the ikodei gerete ke polta dio ke polemikotati the legonde uti ton periakinin tin huron ina. They also serve for hire when anyone wants them, for they are fond of war and poor of purse. For their country is mountainous, and only a small part of it is productive. Ke mistu stratevonda, poton tis afton theite. Diato polemiki te ke penites ina, kegar I hura of tis, oreni te esti ke oligi itakrimate akusa. And when Cyrus and his men were getting nearer to the heights, Tigranes, who was marching with Cyrus, said, do you know, Cyrus, that we ourselves shall have to do the fighting, and in very few moments? For the Armenians, I am sure, will never sustain the enemy's attack. Ostamalon apli siazon e amphi ton kiron ton akron o tigranis sinto kiro paravomenos epen o kira arista efi o tiaftusi mas aftika maladaisi makista os e ge armenii u midaxunda tus polemius. Cyrus answered that he knew that and gave the command to the Persians to make ready, as it would be necessary in a moment to give chase, as soon as the Armenians, by pretending flight, should decoy the enemy to close quarters. Keokiros, ipon, oti, evii, tuto, ephes, pari gisa, tis persis, parskevasasta, osaftika, theison, the okin, epidhan, ipagagosin, tus polemius, Ipofevgundas I Armenii ostangis imin genesta. So the Armenians led on, section 9. The Armenians led on, and when they came near, the Chaldeans already there raised the battle cry, according to their custom, and charged upon them, and the Armenians, according to the custom, failed to sustain the charge. Uto the Igunda, men I Armenii. Ton the Calveon e Porondes, os eplisi azon Irmenii, alalaxandas atheon, osper iothesan, is avtus, either Armenii osper iothesan, uk ethecato. Section 10. And when the Chaldeans in pursuit saw before the swordsmen rushing up against them, some came near and were cut down at once, others fled, and some others of their number were taken prisoner, and soon the heights were taken. And when Cyrus and his men were in the possession of the heights, they looked down on the dwellings of the Chaldeans and saw the people fleeing from their houses nearby. Osta the Okondes, e Chaldei Ethon, Anandius Machirophorus, Yemenus Ano, Emen Tinus of Tis, Pelasandes, Tachi Apethniskon, either Aphavgon, either Tinus K Ealosan of Ton Tahi the Ikatata Akra. Epitheta acraichon iamphi ton chiron, kath eoron te ton caldeon, tas ikisis ke is thononda thebgundas avtus ek ton angis ikiseon. 11. And when the soldiers were all together, Cyrus bade his men take luncheon. And when they had lunched, and he had discovered that the place where the scouts had their posts of observation was strong and well supplied with water, he at once proceeded to build a fort there. He also bade Tigranes send for his father and bid him come with all the carpenters and masons that he had. So a messenger was off to bring the Armenian king, but Cyrus proceeded to build the wall with the men he had at hand. O the Kyros, os pandas istratiota omu agenondo, Aristopiista parigilen, epi the iriskikasan, katamathon entha e scope isan, e ton chalveon erimnon teon ke enithron, Evthis tichize frurion, keton tigranin ekeleve pempin epiton patera kekalevin para genesta akunda aposi ian teknon des teke lithatomi epimenditon armenion okato angelos o the Kyros tis parusin et then. At this juncture, they brought to Cyrus the prisoners in chains, and also some that had been wounded. And when he saw them, he at once ordered that the fetters be taken off, and he sent for surgeons and bade them attend to the wounded men. And when he told the Chaldeans that he had come with no wish to destroy them and with no desire to make war, but because he wished to make peace between Armenians and Chaldeans, en the tuto pros agusi to kiro tus ech malotus the manus tus the tinas ke tetramenus osta ethan afthis liin nen ekelev se tus the manus tus the tetramenus yatrus kalesus therapevin ekelevsen Epita the elexatis chaldeis oti iki uti apolesa epithemon akinus ute polamin theomenos ala irinin volumenos piisa armenis ke chaldeis. Now I know that before the heights were taken, you had no wish at all for peace, for everything of yours was secure, while you carried off and plundered the poverty of the Armenians. But now, see in what a predicament you are. Primen un ekeste ta akra, either oti uden avista irinis, tamangar imetera asphalos icha, ta the ton Armenion igita ke efereta, nin the orata the en Eo este. 13. Now I'm going to let you who have been captured go home and consult with the rest of the Chaldeans whether you wish to have war with us or to be our friends. Ego un afimi imas ikada tus ilimenus ke vidami imin sintis alis Chaldeis vulevsista Itavulista polamin imin ifili ina. And if you choose war, do not come this way again without weapons, if you are wise. But if you decide that you desire peace, come without arms. Ke in men polamon erista mikata ikata vevro Anev Oplon. Isophrονita in the Irinis Dokista Anav Oplon Ikista. I shall see to it that you shall have no cause to complain if you become our friends. Ostakolos exi ta imetera in fili genista ebi melisi. Section 14. And when the Chaldeans heard this, they commended Cyrus highly, shook hands with him heartily, and departed for home. Kusandas datavta ikalthei pala men ep enesendas pala the thexiusamani ton kiron ogandoikitha. Now, when the king of Armenia received Cyrus's summons and heard of his plans, he came to Cyrus as quickly as he could with the carpenters and all that he thought was necessary. O the Armenios, os ikusa, tin the Clesin to Kiru, ketin proxin lavon to tektonas, ke talosan oeto, thine, ikaproston kiron o savinato takisto. 15. And when he saw Cyrus, he said, how little of the future, Cyrus, we mortals can foresee, and yet how much we try to accomplish. Why, just now, when I was striving to secure liberty, I became more a slave than ever before, and when we were taken prisoners, we then thought our destruction certain. But we now find that we are saved as never before. For those who never ceased to do so to us, no end of injury, I now behold in just the condition that I have desired. Epitha either, ipetha either ton kiron elixen, o kira, os oliga dinamini proaron anthropi peri tu melandos, pala epichirumen pratin. Ningard thee, keago eleftherion men mikanasta epichirisas doulos os uda poputa e genomi. Epithe ealumen saphos apolomen nomisendas nin anaphenomen the sesos meni uda poputa igar uda poputa epavoto polakaka imas piundas ninro tutus ekundas osper ego ivkomi. 16. And believe me, Cyrus, he said, when I say that I have driven the Chaldeans from these heights, I would have given many times as much money as you now have for me. And the benefit that you have promised to do us, when you have received the money, you have already conferred so fully that we obviously now owe you a new debt of gratitude besides. And we, on our part, if we have not lost all self-respect, should be ashamed if we did not repay it to you. Que tuto episto efi okira, otiago osta apelase chaldeus apotuton ton akron, pol la plasia an educa, Crimata on sinin echis paramu. Ke a epis nu piisin agatha imas ot alamvanes ta crimata apotetelesta si ivi ostike prosophilondes si alas haritas anapefina men asimiske imikaki esmen eski nimethan si mi apodidondas. Thus the Armenian spoke. 17. O men Armenios to saft elixen. Now the Chaldeans had come back with the request that Cyrus should make peace with them. Either Chaldeai Icon, the omni to Kiru Irini Speci Piisa. And Cyrus asked them, is this the reason that you Chaldeans now desire peace? Because you think that since we are in possession of these heights, you could live in greater security if we had peace than if we were at war? O the Kyros epirito avtus. Allo T F-E O Chaldeae e tutu anica irinis nin epithemita otinomizata asphalesteron on avenista gin irinis genomenis e palamundas epidhiimas tadacomen. And the Chaldeans assented. Epheson e Chaldeae. 18. And what, said he, if still other blessings should accrue to you as a result of the proposed peace? Os. Tithe, Efi, e keali, imin, agatha, pros genito, thea, tiririnin. We should still be more pleased, they answered. Etian Epheson malon Ephranematha. Well, said he, do you think that you are now poor for any other reason than because you have so little fertile land? Allo tiun efi, idiatogis spanizin agathisnin panites no misitina. In this also they agreed with him. Sinephason K tuto. Well then, said Cyrus, would you avail yourselves of the permission to till as much Armenian land as you wish on condition that you paid in full just as much rental as other tenants in Armenia do? Tiun Aphiokiros vulis thon apotelundes osaper iali Armeni exina imin tisermenis gis ergazatha oposanon athelita. Yes, said the Chaldeans, if we could be sure of not being molested. Ephesani Chaldeae epistevimen mean the kisista. 19. Tell me, King of Armenia, said he, would you be willing that land of yours, which now lies uncultivated, should be cultivated, if those who cultivate it would pay you the usual rental? T the C, F-E-O Armeni, vulio on C, teen nin argon, usangin, energon genesta, e melian ta nomizomena par si apotelin e ergizomeni. The Armenian answered that he would give a great deal to have it so, for in this way his revenues would be greatly increased. Ephior Menios polu on tuto priesta, poligar on avxanasta teen prosodon. 20. And tell me, Chaldean, said he, seeing that you have fine mountains, would you be willing to let the Armenians pasture their herds there if the herdsmen would pay you for what is fair? Ti the emis, Efi, ochal thei, epi oriagatha ekete, ethelit on, eon namin tafta tus Armenius, e emin melien, e ne mundas tadhikia apotelin. The Chaldeans said that they would, for they would get large profits by it without any labor on their own part. Epheson, e Chaldeae, polagar on, ophelista, uden ponundas. And you, king of Armenia, he said, would you be willing to rent their pasture lands if by letting the Chaldeans have a little profit, you were to get much greater profit for yourself? See the Ephiormeni, Athelis on testutonomes Christa, Emelis Mikra, Ophelon, Chaldeus, Poli, Plio, Ophelisista? Why, of course, said he, if I thought I could pasture my cattle there in security. Case fodra on Ephi, Iper, Eemin, Asphalos, Well then, said he, could you pasture them there in security if the heights were in the possession of your friends? Ukun, Efi Asphalos Nemita, Ita Akra, Ekita Simaka? Yes, said the Armenian. Efi O Armenios. $21. But by Zeus, said the Chaldean, we could not even work our own farms in security, to say nothing of theirs, if they were to have possession of the heights. Allah ma'di Ephesani Chaldei, uk ani mis asphalos ergas imatha, mi oti tin tuton al udhan tin imateran it uti ta'akra ekian. But, said Cyrus, suppose on the other hand that the heights are in the possession of your friends. Ideminav efi ta'akra simakai. In that case, he said, we should be all right. Utos on efisan imin kolosaki. But by Zeus, said the Armenian, we on our part should not be all right if they are again to get possession of the heights, especially now that they've been fortified. Alamadi evi Armenios, ukani min av kolosaki, uti paralimstonde palinta akra alos teti hismena. 22. This then, said Cyrus, is what I shall do. I shall not give possession of the heights to either of you, but we shall keep a garrison there ourselves, and if either of you does wrong, we shall side with the injured party. Keo kirosip and utosi tinin afi ego piso. Uzateri simon ta'akra paradoso. Ali mis philoxamen tafta. Kan adikosin imon o poteri sin tis adikumenis imis esomatha. 23. And when they heard this proposal, both sides gave it their approval and said that only in this way could the peace be effective. And upon these conditions, they interchanged assurance of friendship and agreed that each party should be independent of the other, and there should be the right of intermarriage and a mutual tillage and pasture in each other's territory, and that there should be a defensive alliance in case anyone should injure either party. Os the ikusan tafte amphoteri ep inasan ke elegonoti utos on monos e erini vivea genito ke apituti sadosan ke elevon pandes ta pista ke elefterus men amphoterus up alilonina sin tithendo epigamias the ina ke epigarcias, ke epinomias, ke epimachian, ke kinin, either adikii opoterus. 24. Such then was the agreement entered into at that time, and to this day the covenants which were made between the Chaldeans and the king of Armenia still continue in force. And when the treaty was made, they both together began with enthusiasm at once to build the fort for their common protection, and then altogether they stocked it with provisions. Uto men un tota the aproxi, ke nin the eti uto the amenusan, a tota genomene sinica. Galdeis ke to tinor menian ekondi, epi the a sin thika genindo these sin tichizon te omphoteri prothemos os kinon frurion ke tapitithia sinasigon. 25. When evening was drawing on, he entertained both sides, now made friends, as his guests at dinner. And while the party was in progress, one of the Chaldeans said that to all the rest of them, this state of affairs was desirable, but there were some of the Chaldeans, so they said, who lived by plundering and would not know how to farm and could not, for they were used to making their living by the business of war, and they were always making raids or serving as mercenaries. They were often in the service of the Indian king, and he paid well, and they said, for he was a very wealthy man, and often in the service of Astyages. Epi the aspera prosii, sin thipnun, sip thenus eleven, futerus, pros afton os philus ethi, sis ki nundon, the ipetiston koldeon otitis menalis phone, passing evkta taftai. Isi the tinus ton koldeon e lizomini zosi ke ut an epistendo ergazasta ut an thinendo and ithis many apopolemu viotevin. Aigar elizondo e amistoforun polakis men parato in thon Vasili ke gar ephason polikrisos anir polakis the ke par astiagi. 26. Then why do they not enter my service now? Asked Cyrus. I will pay as much as anyone ever had done. They assented and said that the volunteers would be many. Keokirasafi ti un u kenin parami misto forusin egogardhoso oson tis kealos pliston thipota evoca sin ephason e ke polus ge esthus the elegontus ethelisandas. 27. These terms were thus agreed upon, and when Cyrus heard that the Chaldeans made frequent trips to the Indian king, remembering that representatives from him had come once to Media to investigate conditions there and had then visited the enemy to inquire into theirs also, he wished to have him learn what he had done. Ketafta men the uto sin o mologito o the kiros os ikusen oti polakis prostoni thon ke I kaldei porevondo anamnistis oti ilthon paraftu katas gepsomeni is midus tafton pragmata keokundo prostus polemius oposan ke ta ekinon katidosin evulato mathin to windon ta efto peprogmena. 28. King of Armenia, said he, and you, Chaldeans, tell me, if I should now send one of my men to the Indian king, would you send along some of yours to conduct him on the way and to cooperate with him in getting what I want from the king of India? Now, I should like to have more money in order to be in a position both to pay generous wages, when I ought, and to honor with rewards those of my fellow soldiers who deserve it. And the reason why I wish to have as generous a supply of money as possible is that I expect to need it, and I shall be glad to spare yours. For I now count you among my friends, but from the Indian king I should be glad to accept a contribution if he would offer it. O Armeni, irxato un logi tiuze. O Armeni, Efi, keimis okovei, ipata mi, itina go ninton amon apotelimi, proston indon, sim bepset on miton imiteron itines afto, tinta odon, igindo on ke sim pratien, ostigenesta imin pratuindu a ego vulome. Ego gar crimata men pros genesta etian vulimin imin. Opos echo ke miston aphthonos thizona isan thei ke timan ke doriste ton sistrata vomenon tus axius. Tuton the anica vulame os aphthnotata Crimata eki, disa tuton nomizon, ton they materon ev mi apekasa. Filus garimas iri nomizo. Para the tu inzu ideosan lavimi e divi. 29. Now when the messenger to whom I am asking you to furnish guides and co-workers arrives there, he will ask on this wise, King of India, Cyrus has sent me to you. He says that he needs more funds, for he is expecting another army from his home in Persia. And that is true, said he, for I am expecting one. If therefore you will send him as much as you convincingly can, he says that if God will give him good success, he will try to make you think that you were well advised in doing him this favor. O unangelos, o kelevo imas igemonas zuna ke simpraktoras genesta elthonikista o the lexi. Epim sem kiros o in the proset, fisi the prosthista primaton prostacomenos, alin stration ecos ek person, kegar prosdecume efi. In un avto pempsis, oposan si prochori fisin, in theos legathon telos thitho avto, pirasas the piista ostisenomizin, kalos vevulevsta karisamenon avto. 30. This my envoy will say, do you now in your turn give your representatives such instructions as you think expedient for you? And if we get anything from him, we shall have more abundant funds to use. And if we do not, we shall know that we owe him no thanks, but may, as far as he is concerned, settle everything with a view of our own interests. Tafta men o par emu lexi. Tis the par imon emis of epi stelata oti imin symphoron thokiina. Kein men lavamen efi paraf tu afthonoteris chrysomatha. In mi lavamen isomatha oti udamian afto horin ophilamen al exesta imin ekinu anaken prost imiteron sympheron panda tithasta. 31. Thus Cyrus spoke, and he believed that those of the Armenians and Chaldeans who were to go would say such things of him as he desired all men to say and to hear him. And then, when it was time, the banquet came to an end, and they went to rest. Tavte ipenokiros, nomizon tus yondas armenion ke chaldeon, tiavte laxing, periavtu, iavtos apathemi, pandas anthropus, ke lagin, ke akuin, periavtu, ke tota men the, o pota kolosika, the alisandas teen skinin, ana pavondo. And that is the end of Book 3, Section 2, verses 1 through 31. I will start next time with Book 3, Section 3, verse 1. Thank you very much.